Okay. Worst of the week.
Speaking of worst of the week.
Speaking of the worst of the week, we're barely we're barely getting past COVID. We had the Pod Save boys show up for our worst of the week this week. So I don't know how many of you all follow Thomas IATSE strike, Thomas in New York City. But this week, Bernie wrote, or last week, that he tested positive for COVID. His symptoms are minimal. He'll continue to work from home in Vermont while isolating in accordance with CDC guidance. I'm glad to be fully up to date with the vaccine. So it was very clearly reading from the script that they all do every time.
Right.
And Thomas quote tweeted him. I think he has long COVID, Thomas. And he said, fuck Bernie and everyone who's like, my symptoms are mild and I'll continue to work while infected with a debilitating and deadly virus. Seriously, fuck off. And then, and oh my goodness, it's cut off on mine. I don't know if it's cut off on all of you guys to show who's actually quote tweeting that, but it is Jon Favreau, speechwriter for Obama. You can see it, of the Pod Save boys. Didn't realize this brand of person is still edit on here. Impressive stamina. Just an asshole. Like, here he is with his, what, million followers or something, quote tweeting somebody who's clearly upset and in pain. As we are reaching 2 million cases a day, we have killed 1.2 million, at least, of our own citizens and more throughout the world. We have, what, 10 million people who are suffering from long COVID and many more to come. And that's where his focus is. I don't know if they've done a show on COVID. Do you know? I don't ever watch that.
I mean, I read the responses and a lot of the back and forths with people, against him. Maybe a little bit. He came out with, tweets saying along the lines of long COVID is real and dangerous and blah, 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 stuff like that. But
right.
I think what's missing from the discussion is like, Bernie's the fucking chair of the Senate Health Commission. He's the top guy on the Senate Health Commission. So at a minimum, his statement should say, this is a wake-up call to people about the dangers of COVID and the importance of masking. And
I'm so lucky I have paid sick leave.
Yeah, I'm lucky.
Most of the country.
I have all this stuff that a lot of people don't have. My situation is going to be, different. Look, I understand saying I'm going to work from home. The problem a lot of people pointed out with that is that one of the things you don't want to do is try to work through COVID. That's an important part of, it's really about rest. It's not like sweat out a cold, like some 1980s logic.
Right.
It's, holy shit, this thing will take hold if you don't completely shut down your body and rest.
Yep.
But it's where he says it from. Like if I tweeted that out from my home when I got COVID or something, it's different than the actual leftist hero, Bernie fucking Sanders, who's left a lot of these people out to dry on COVID. And we all expected more than for him to just co-sign Biden's failed fucking COVID policy.
Yeah.
And he's got all the fucking healthcare in the world. He's got treatments galore. He's missing every opportunity to express empathy with all these people he's abandoned.
Yes.
And even if you don't agree with the harshness of his statement, there's a difference in saying, I wouldn't respond like that or something, than let the guy harmed have a fucking voice. Like, I'm going to be this big account picking on this small account.
Yeah.
It just hit all the feathers. And then, of course, I mean, real serious, high-powered disability activists carefully, concisely laid out the case in a nice, like, hey, I know what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Like, they did the whole psychology of like, let me tell you why you should think differently.
Yeah, exactly. And he just totally ignored it and acted like he was the victim. And then, of course, like a bunch of, shit libby people are like, don't let them bully you. So yeah. So then here's the next part is Ben Dreyfuss, who's like one of the worst people in the world. But anyway, he tweets, last night I came across a thread of people going off on you still. They were referring to it like the Pod Save John affair or something. Like it was an episode of American history that must be taught in school. And Favreau says, me, I think long COVID is real, tragic, and deserves more attention. Them replying to Instagram posts announcing the birth of my child. And so somebody, some jackass says, maybe he'll let us cough all over his newborn. Not the nicest thing to write, but also like, again, some rando, Jesus wept 69, not exactly, punching up there. And now Favreau does what every lib does. Boy, have I been persuaded. Totally changed my mind. Bernie's a fucking asshole for doing Zooms while COVID positive. So right away, it's like tone policing and the civility police and, if you think you're going to convince me of talking like that, you got to talk. I agree with everything you're saying. It's just the way you say it. It's all that bullshit. Instead of focusing on the fact that, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think that Thomas considers himself disabled now. I don't know what's happening at all, but like whether it's long COVID or something else. So, but talking to somebody clearly in pain and other people in the thread who were lovely to him, as you said, like doctors,
so nice, like so delicate, like me, if I took mushrooms and thought for a moment, like, hey, let's just this is my family. This guy's a good person. I just want to give him a hug with the truth or truth hug or something.
I mean, seriously. And instead of, but this is every time because he's embarrassed. And instead of saying, you know what, you're right, I need to learn from this and I'm sorry. But also, by the way, like, fuck you for acting like you're going to defend Bernie when you and your boss were the people who shut it all down. Like, I mean, there's so many levels of putrid. Yeah,
that level was, I'm going to tap into the Bernie discontent audience. Like, the people that left, he's trying to get the people that don't like Bernie anymore, like,
right.
It's entirely gross.
But he's also trying to get like the people who do like Bernie. Like every time I get a fundraising.
No, I mean, I'm sorry. He's trying to get the people still supporting Bernie. Like,
right.
Oh,
yeah, like,
you don't want to be with the outliers that don't like Bernie.
Do you want to go see Tuesday night football or?
Yeah, exactly.
But
the part.
He's like cribbing Bernie's good juice.
The part that's particularly annoying is that was the response that we just showed there where he said, oh, I think long COVID is real. Like that was it. Right. It was that little blurb. It wasn't like some other big tweet. It was just that moment in a response to somebody else about how, I think it deserves more coverage. It deserves more coverage. You have one of the biggest fucking shows that could give it coverage. I mean, I would never watch the show, but the people that need to watch, the people that do watch your show are the people most uninformed on this stuff.
Yeah.
Have a show on it. And then, we'll see if something comes of it, but he hasn't responded like he's going to ever have a show with any of these disability people who have been clamoring for him to have a show.
Yep.
And then to take this back to our pathetic progressive left who covers every little drama on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
This was the biggest one on Twitter the last few days. They're not going to cover it because then they have to go on the record with how they feel about COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't want to do that. They don't want to know. They don't want to say, oh, I should be covering this too.
Yeah.
They can't take a side. They're probably on Jon Favreau's
They're on Jon's side. Yeah, exactly. Well, all right. And then just so it continued a little bit, and I did think that this was actually interesting. Somebody reminded or, responded that didn't Walensky, I got to put on my readers, but it's okay because y'all can't see me. Did Walensky make almost this exact same tweet and then disappear for weeks because COVID isn't mild and isn't a thing people should work through? Bernie should be ashamed for parroting these dangerous, inaccurate, and anti-worker talking points. And then Thomas says, yes, the CDC director did make that same exact tweet as Bernie Sanders and then literally disappeared for 15 days. Actually, she kind of disappeared forever. She's gone. And there was never any acknowledgement that actually her symptoms were not mild and she missed over 2 weeks of work. The plain truth is Bernie and all of these other people making the same copy and pasted COVID symptoms are mild tweet are lying. They're bold-faced, making shit up. Everybody knows it's bullshit, lying. And you know, the next part, and I don't really normally like calling out other podcasters or people by name unless they're like very high up, but that next one, he's saying, the people who like chimed in to come to Jon Favreau's defense, like he needs that. One of them was Ryan Grimm, and I don't know if he liked one of Jon Favreau's responses or whatever. But so then Thomas does a search and it's like nothing about IATSE, WGA, SAG, so like, just like with budgets, it is interesting to see where people put their focus and attention and when they feel like tweeting about something or supporting somebody, because we all need more voices out there, as we're always talking about, to talk about this dire issue that the media is completely complicit with, all the CEOs and our stupid government, and people are dying. They're getting sick. We are reinfecting our children, our babies, over and over with something that is affecting all of their organs, their brains, their hearts. I mean, it is just, and then to just bring it back to the thing of like, well, when Trump was in power, this is Jon Favreau. When the Nightly News does a segment on record COVID cases, they didn't even know what was coming 3 years later, 4 years later, and rising hospitalizations, you want to make sure there's an accompanying clip of your candidate mocking people's concern that the virus may kill them. Politics 101. This tweet aged beautifully, Jon Favreau.
Yeah. I mean,
so, worst of the week.
This is why, as progressives, it's important not to stand for anybody. We are not here to be fans of the best leftist candidates and ignore the flaws.
Right.
And real Bernie supporters largely abandoned Bernie because they were not just Bernie stands. They were people passionate about these issues.
Exactly.
And I don't care if you still support Bernie. I support a lot of, what he's doing. I still think he's great on a lot of stuff. He's the best we have on a lot of stuff. But it still sucks, and he should get massive criticism. And it's just embarrassing when you claim to be left media and you're not covering the pandemic and you're not on the right side of an issue that is so clearly the correct view. It's not like a complicated issue. It's, if you are researching it at all, the correct view is, at a minimum, we need masks in a lot of places. We can clean the air. We should be doing that. We don't want to give our kids this over and over. We don't want to give our kids this once, but we don't want to give it to them twice a year. It intersects with every issue on the left as well. Absolutely. So like to push that you're this socialist, communist, progressive leftist who just doesn't want to get into the complicated fucking pandemic we're living is just garbage.
It is total garbage. It's really ridiculous.